This happened when I was in my early 20s. I used to live in a small house with 3 other guys. None of us really knew each other before moving in together, but we all went to the same college and graduated at the same time. Since all of us were searching for a place to live after that, it just kind of worked out. By splitting the rent 4 ways, we managed to afford a small house on the rural outskirts of the city. Anything closer to town was simply too expensive. Everything went fine for the first 9 months or so, but then 2 of the guys suddenly decided to move out, leaving just me and KJ. Unfortunately, KJ was the one I didn't really talk to that much. He was always busy working, getting home late, or just not interested in hanging out with the rest of us. So it sucked that the other 2 were the ones who left. It also meant KJ and I had to pay double each month. This wasn't something we could handle long term, so we agreed that once the lease ended in 3 months, we'd go our separate ways and leave the house. For the first month after the 2 moved out, it became really clear just how rarely KJ was around. On my days off, I'd usually be home all day and night by myself, which felt strange compared to when the other 2 were still living there. I didn't mind too much though. Honestly, it felt nice having the whole place to myself. Still, I thought it was odd that KJ was gone for such long stretches all the time. He only worked part-time in the morning, so I assumed he must have been out with friends every night. One night, however, I stayed up a bit later than usual. I was sitting in my room around 1 a.m. when I saw headlights shining through my window, pulling into the gravel driveway. When I heard the front door open, I got up and felt like saying hi, just to avoid things getting even more distant or awkward between us. I opened my bedroom door but was caught off guard when I heard footsteps rushing down the hallway. When I peeked out, I startled him like I'd caught him doing something wrong. The hallway lights were off, so I couldn't see him well, but I noticed his eyes were wide and his body was frozen just outside his bedroom door. "What's up, KJ?" "Just checking in to see how you're doing," I said to break the silence. The way he stood there in the dark hallway, staring at me with those wide eyes, gave me chills. "I'm good," he finally said. After another few seconds of silence, I just nodded and stepped back into my room. That definitely didn't make things less awkward between us. Why was he acting so strange, rushing to his room like that? I didn't want to pry, but it started to bother me. After a couple of minutes, I quietly opened my door and carefully walked down the hallway. I just wanted to listen for a second as I passed by his room and nothing more. But when I got close, I heard him moving around frantically, opening and closing drawers like crazy. It was so strange that I stopped walking for a moment and leaned in a bit closer to the door. The frantic noise continued, making me feel uneasy until it suddenly went silent. Everything stopped like he had frozen in place. As the seconds passed by, I grew more and more uncomfortable and wanted to get out of the hallway. Before I could move, though, the door suddenly swung open. KJ stood in the doorway, those same wide eyes locked on me, staring without blinking. Trying to cover for myself, I said I was heading to the kitchen and asked if he wanted anything. KJ softly muttered no, then shut the door on me. Honestly, it was really unsettling and made me feel like something was seriously wrong with him. I went into the kitchen to keep up the excuse, then returned to my room. He stayed quiet for the rest of the night. For the next 5 or 6 days, I found myself paying a lot more attention to what KJ was doing. I'd stay awake until he came home, always feeling too uneasy to sleep until I knew he was in his room and not doing anything strange. During those days, he stayed in that same disturbing, almost zombie-like state that I first saw that night. His eyes grew more restless every day, and he barely said a word, always rushing straight into his room. Then one night, after he got home and while I was in bed trying to fall asleep, I heard a knock at my door. It startled me. I hadn't even heard him walk down the hallway. I got up and opened the door. He had that same restless-eyed stare, but this time with a partial smile. He told me he had just gotten home and thought he'd dropped his wallet somewhere out on the driveway as he was walking to the door. He asked if I had a flashlight and could help him look for it real quick. I thought it was odd since he'd never asked anyone for help before or even to do anything with him. Although it seemed strange and I was tired, I figured maybe this was a chance to ease the tension. So I grabbed a flashlight and followed him out to the driveway. He started some small talk, asking about work and things like that. As we walked on the gravel and looked around, I immediately noticed his car was parked really far down the driveway, like all the way at the end for no reason I could see. So if he'd walked all that way up, we now had to do the same going back to search for his wallet. We reached his car and I hadn't seen anything on the ground. Then he began leading me away from the car. I kept shining the light around, realizing there was no reason his wallet would be away from the driveway like this. I asked what we were doing. KJ paused for a few seconds, like he was thinking, then said he'd gone for a short walk earlier and might have dropped it there, but I wasn't buying it. He kept trying to guide me deeper into the woods, away from the driveway. Every time I said we should turn back, he'd insist we keep going. It got suspicious really fast. "Here, take the flashlight. I'm heading back to the house. I've got to be up early for work tomorrow anyway," I said, offering him the flashlight and trying to leave. He didn't take it. His obviously fake smile faded, and his restless eyes looked more disappointed than ever. He seemed angry. He didn't say anything, but the tension made me feel more uncomfortable by the second. After a few moments, I turned and quickly walked away from the woods. I glanced back a couple times and saw KJ still standing there, staring at me. As soon as I got inside the house, I started packing. I had no idea what that was all about, but I didn't feel safe with him anymore. I didn't sleep at all that night, listening closely in case KJ came back and did something else, but he never returned to the house. In the morning, I grabbed all the important stuff, loaded it into my car, and left. Even after all these years, I've never heard anything about KJ or figured out what he was doing. His behavior wasn't normal at all, and I honestly believe he was planning something terrible in the woods that night.